Good afternoon. This presentation shows the results of the focus group in carbon storage in arable farming promoted by EIP-AGRI of the European Commission in 2017 and 2019. The focus group had 20 experts plus one coordinator expert from 10 countries, four of which were farmers, 13 researchers, 2 advisors, and 1 civil servant. My name is Íñigo Virto, and I'm one of these experts, and I'm presenting for you this work today on behalf of my colleagues. The driving question formulated to this group was which cost-effective farm management practices and tools could foster and ensure long-lasting carbon storage in arable farming, contributing to climate change mitigation. This question raised from relevant background information on the crucial role of soil organic carbon storage in many aspects. From the perspective of soil functioning, we know that soil organic carbon stocks are affected by biotic activities in soil and also by abiotic processes. And we also know that by acting on both biotic and abiotic mechanisms, land use and management practices, including agricultural management, drive soil spatio-temporal organic carbon dynamics. We also know that increasing soil organic matter stocks is important for climate change mitigation and adaptation, as well as for soil fertility and food security. When it comes to implementing management options that allow increasing soil organic carbon stocks at a local scale, we found different questions that can rise. How can this be done? At which rates? For how long? And also, where can this be done? And which agricultural practices can make it possible? For answering this question, the group was organized in a couple of presential meetings. At the time, it was still possible to meet face-to-face for these type of things. And then we also worked in groups during the time at which the group was working and produced a final report. So we had a first meeting in Alicante in November 1921, second meeting in Tulle in Austria in June 2018, and we produced a final report, which is already available online at the focus group website. Well, in the first meeting, the 21 experts gathered in Alicante with a program aiming to organize the work by finding hot topics or topics of interest that should be studied in detail further during the activity of the focus group. Therefore, some previous work was done by Catherine Hedlund from the University of Sweden, who was the group leader, by preparing and discussing a starting paper, which is also available. Then, 6 examples from practice were shown by their own protagonists, mostly farmers and advisors, explaining successful strategies to increase their soil organic carbon storage in different areas of Europe with different climates and soils and under different management strategies. From these, the group tried to identify the most relevant topics in relation to farm management practices that could foster and ensure long-lasting carbon storage. Therefore, a 2-step procedure followed. First, a work for identifying the practices with potential to increase soil organic carbon and their pros and cons with possible limitations, including an analysis of the possible economic and environmental impacts and limitations, was done. This was done by focusing in 4 areas of management: the use of organic amendments, crops and crop rotations, soil management and fertilization. Then, or finally, the outcome of this process was the identification of 6 topics to be developed in detail in the form of the so-called mini papers. These were conservation agriculture, tools and indicators for the performance of soil organic carbon storage, local and regional adaptation strategies to increase or maintain organic carbon, what incentives can scale up successful cases with respect to organic capture in soil, how can we promote biomass return in soils, and finally, 1 mini paper on the potential of organic amendments for carbon storage potential on arable soils. Then, this was the homework we took home for working in different groups. And in the second meeting, there was a presentation of the mini papers that was followed by a brainstorming activity on the 3 major topics related to good practices aiming to answer the driving question. These good practices aiming to, or seen as with potential for being effective for fostering and ensuring long-lasting carbon storage were those related to keeping soil cover, including cover crops, intercropping, agroforestry, and so on. Second, those related to the return of locally produced biomass, such as compost, sludge, manure, and so on. And third, those related to the reduction of tillage and conservation agriculture. We also had a farm visit that I'm going to show you right now, very interesting one, and the opportunity to interact with 2 operational groups. In the farm visit, we visit Alfred Grand's farm. Alfred Grand is a farmer in Austria, and he was also an expert in the focus group and was hosting this interesting visit to his farm. He represents a very interesting success story of a farmer combining organic farming and tillage reduction, with a particular attention paid to soils and their characteristics, so that it is possible to adapt the strategies known to be useful for increasing soil organic carbon storage as needed for the local conditions. This, together with the promotion of other promising practices such as vermicomposting, has made the farm sustainable not only from an environmental perspective, but also from the profitability perspective, and have made this farm to become a lighthouse for many others in Austria and also in the whole European Union. So from this collective work, and as already indicated, the management practices identified as most promising to answer the question were those related to keeping the soil covered, intercropping, cover crops, crop rotations, agroforestry, those related to the addition of organic matter amendments from local sources, those related to the reduction of organic matter decomposition by reducing soil disturbance, not only by reducing tillage, but also, for instance, with precision farming, and those controlling soil moisture by managing water use. Other issues considered relevant were that a combination of several of these practices is likely to be more effective than using just one of them. The local conditions can also influence the effectivity of the different practices, and therefore local testing and adapting of different combinations of practices would be useful. And third, that it is essential to increase the awareness among farmers and consumers on the importance of capturing carbon, not just to mitigate climate change, but also to increase soil health and fertility and adapting to climate change. We were also recommended to identify knowledge gaps, and we did so by dividing these gaps into those more related to practice, so therefore more related to practitioners, and those more related to basic knowledge issuing from research. The gaps identified in relation to practice were those in the list. We identified a number of knowledge gaps or not completely understood ideas in relation to cover crops and associations, agroforestry, and the use of organic amendments, as well as on in the relationship between soil biology and soil health, and between soil organic carbon and plant health. In relation to research, we identified also a number of questions that still need attention from researchers so that we can complete our understanding of the processes leading to soil organic carbon storage, including, for instance, the role of amendments and root exudates in sustaining soil microflora, the issues of stoichiometry, the issues related to modeling, such as the inclusion of landscape scale modeling strategies, and also including management factors other than tillage and fertilization, also the ideas about carbon saturation, the optimal use of local biomass, the links between soil biology and soil physics, the consequences of multiple managements or combination of managements on soil organic carbon, and of course the socioeconomical value of soil carbon. So we end with some ideas or recommendations to address these knowledge gaps, and those were raising the awareness on benefits of soil carbon in agriculture. We made a collection of suggestions that can be found in the report about conservation agriculture, organic amendments, intercropping, and local adaptation strategies. For this latter, there's a paper that was published last year in the Journal of Rural Studies addressing the suggestions that were made in this relation. And we also came out with a number of ideas for operational groups, which was one of the objectives of this focus group. So we proposed creating operational groups for or on the tools to assess soil organic carbon sequestration and benefits, best practices and advisory service on irrigation and soil organic carbon sequestration, cropping for climate change adaptation and not only mitigation, local implementation of precision and conservation agriculture, plant mixtures in crop rotations for different farming systems and regions, agroforestry, and the local use of biomass, crop residues, and excess manure. So this is the summary of the work we did in this group. All the information is available online, and of course you can contact any of the members of the group by finding our contact address in this website of the group. I thank you very much for your attention.